This is Pittencrieff Park in Dunfermline, Scotland. This statue is dedicated to Andrew Carnegie. But who was this man really? How did a poor Scottish boy become one of the most wealthy and influential figures in history? Born in 1835 in Dunfermline, Scotland, Andrew Carnegie entered a world on the brink of massive change. The Industrial Revolution was in full swing, transforming societies and economies across the globe. In Dunfermline, a town known for its fine linen production, Carnegie's father, William, was a handloom weaver. But the advent of power looms was rapidly making his skills obsolete. So, the Carnegie family, like many others, found themselves struggling to make ends meet. Young Andrew grew up in a small cottage, sharing a single room with his parents and younger brother. Food was scarce, and the future looked bleak. But Andrew's mother, Margaret, was a force to be reckoned with. Determined to give her sons a better life, she pushed for the family to emigrate to America. In 1848, when Andrew was just 13 years old, the Carnegies sold everything they owned and set sail for the New World. The journey across the Atlantic was long and arduous. Packed into the steerage section of the sailing ship Wiscasset, the Carnegies endured 7 weeks of rough seas, poor sanitation, and meager rations. But for young Andrew, it was also a time of excitement and possibility. He spent hours on deck, watching the sailors work and dreaming of what lay ahead. When they finally arrived in New York City, Andrew was overwhelmed by the bustling metropolis. The sights, sounds, and smells of the city were unlike anything he had ever experienced. But the Carnegies didn't linger long in New York. They quickly made their way to Allegheny, Pennsylvania, now part of Pittsburgh, where they had some relatives. Allegheny in the 1840s was a gritty industrial town. Smoke from iron foundries and glass factories filled the air. The streets were crowded with workers, many of them immigrants like the Carnegies, all struggling to carve out a better life for themselves. At 13, Andrew was thrust into this world of work. His first job was as a bobbin boy in a cotton mill, working 12-hour days for $1.20 a week. The work was monotonous and exhausting, but young Carnegie was determined not to give up, not for himself nor for his family. Unlike today, it was common and even expected for children from working-class families to contribute to the household income. The concept of a carefree childhood was a luxury reserved for the wealthy. But despite working long hours, he found time to expand his knowledge beyond physical work. He was an avid reader. He took advantage of a local benefactor, Colonel James Anderson, who opened his personal library to working boys on Saturday nights. And this access to literature and knowledge would begin to shape his intellect. But in the meantime, he had to keep looking for money. Carnegie's next job was as a messenger boy for a telegraph company. It was here that his quick mind and willingness to learn caught the attention of his superiors. He taught himself to translate telegraph signals by ear, a skill that set him apart from his peers. This ability led to his next big break, a job as a telegraph operator for the Pennsylvania Railroad. At 18, Carnegie had entered one of the most dynamic and rapidly growing industries in America. The railroad industry in the 1850s was transforming the country. It was connecting cities, opening up new markets, and creating vast fortunes. For an ambitious young man like Carnegie, it was the perfect place to be. Under the mentorship of Thomas Scott, a high-ranking railroad official, Carnegie learned the ins and outs of the business world. He absorbed lessons in management, finance, and most importantly, the art of seizing opportunities. One of Carnegie's first major investments came through Scott. In 1856, Scott offered Carnegie the chance to buy shares in the Adams Express Company. Andrew didn't have the money, but his mother mortgaged their house to raise the $500 needed. It was a risk, but one that paid off handsomely. This investment marked the beginning of Carnegie's career as a capitalist. He began to see opportunities everywhere, investing in a diverse range of businesses from railroads to oil to iron bridges. But it wasn't just luck or good timing that propelled Carnegie's rise. He had a keen eye for innovation and efficiency. He was always looking for ways to improve processes, cut costs, and increase productivity. Take, for example, his involvement in the iron bridge industry. Carnegie recognized that iron bridges were superior to wooden ones, and he invested heavily in the Keystone Bridge Company. Under his leadership, the company introduced standardized designs and prefabricated components, revolutionizing bridge construction. As Carnegie's wealth grew, so did his confidence and ambition. He began to see himself not just as a successful businessman, but as a leader and visionary. He cultivated a public persona, writing articles on business and social issues, and networking with other influential figures. But undoubtedly, one of the most important moments in Carnegie's career, and probably the reason you know his name, came in the 1870s, when he saw and recognized the potential of steel. At the time, iron was the primary material used in construction and manufacturing. But steel, while more expensive to produce, was stronger and more versatile. Carnegie saw this and threw himself into learning everything he could about steel production. He traveled to England to study the latest techniques and invested heavily in new technology. Once again, he was determined and believed in himself. And it worked, once again. In 1875, he opened his first steel plant in Braddock, Pennsylvania. The timing? It was perfect. America was in the midst of a construction boom, building skyscrapers, bridges, and railroads at an unprecedented rate. Carnegie's high-quality, low-cost steel was in high demand. That's how Carnegie's company came to dominate steel production in the USA, controlling 70% of the country's steel production, earning millions and millions of dollars and ranking among the wealthiest men in the country. Yet there was a contradiction in Carnegie's character. While he ruthlessly pursued profit in his business dealings, he also believed in the importance of philanthropy. In 1889, he published The Gospel of Wealth, an essay arguing that the rich had a moral obligation to use their wealth for the betterment of society. Carnegie's philanthropic efforts were as ambitious as his business ventures. He funded the construction of over 2,500 public libraries, established pension funds for teachers and university professors, and donated to countless other causes. It was a joint effort. His businesses fueled his philanthropic endeavors. By the turn of the century, Carnegie Steel was the largest and most profitable steel company, not only in the US, but in the world. Andrew Carnegie, the poor boy from Dunfermline, Scotland, became one of the richest men in history. In 1901, at the age of 66, Carnegie made the surprising decision to sell his company. He negotiated a deal with financier J.P. Morgan, selling Carnegie Steel for $480 million. In today's money, that's approximately $18 billion. It was the largest commercial transaction in American history up to that point. With the sale of his company, Carnegie turned his full attention to philanthropy. He set out to give away his entire fortune, stating, "The man who dies rich dies disgraced." But his philanthropy was strategic and forward-thinking. He didn't just give handouts. He invested in institutions and infrastructure that would continue to benefit society long after he was gone. His libraries, for example, were centers of learning that provided free access to information for everyone. He funded the building of 2,500 libraries worldwide, with the majority located in the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and other English-speaking countries. He also founded several influential institutions that continue to shape our world today. The Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, established in 1910, remains one of the world's leading foreign policy think tanks. The Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching has been instrumental in shaping higher education in America. Hard work, leaving a legacy, providing assistance so that other wage earners learn the tools to create a path like his own. The dream of peaceful coexistence of humanity. That marked Carnegie's last years. But then the times in the world changed. World peace was no longer possible with the outbreak of World War I in 1914. He was devastated by the conflict, seeing it as a failure of diplomacy and reason. His health began to decline, and he withdrew from public life. Andrew Carnegie died on August 11, 1919, at the age of 83. By the time of his death, he had given away about $350 million, $6.5 billion in today's money. But he hadn't quite succeeded in giving it all away. The remainder of his fortune went to the Carnegie Corporation of New York, which continues his philanthropic work to this day. So there it is. Andrew Carnegie was a poor Scottish boy from Dunfermline, Scotland, who became one of the richest men in history and a huge promoter of philanthropy. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you want to see more.
In a Scottish town where the nights were cold, the Carnegies struggled, their pockets were old. But the mother had dreams, she believed they could soar. So they sailed to America to find something more. Oh, Andrew Carnegie, the man with the plan, with vision and drive, he built this land. From humble beginnings to riches untold, he gave it away, his heart was pure gold. He worked as a bobbin boy, hand stained with thread. But at night in the library, through books he was led. With knowledge as power, he began to see the path to riches, where his future would be. Oh, Andrew Carnegie, the man with the plan, with vision and drive, he built this land. From humble beginnings to riches untold, with steel he made fortunes vast and untold, built cities and bridges, turned dreams into gold. But profit alone, it wasn't enough, so he used all his money to live